What's shaking, y'all? It's me, Tawasi Clark, and I'm back here with another video. And in this video, I'm gonna show y'all the secret sauce that I use to do all my color grading and basically my whole process to show y'all how I color grade my images. By no leaps, shapes, and bounds am I a professional colorist. I do what I do and I do what I do very well. But I'm here to talk about a plugin for DaVinci Resolve and other things that you could use to help your footage get to that next level. And it's called Dehancer. Let's get into it. The kind people at Dehancer reached out to me and asked me to review their plugin, which I've been hearing about for years and years and years, and it's been recommended to me a bunch of times. And I tried it out for the last few months, and I think it's so good that I added it to my color grading workflow, and I'm gonna show y'all my color grading workflow right now. The reason I believe you should have a workflow instead of buying LUTs and slapping on these things that people give you is because things people show you on the internet would not always give you the same results. You might expose your images differently, you might have different situations than they're in, and it might look different. But from what I've seen using Dehancer, I've gotten great results, and if you take creating content seriously, you should have Dehancer in your toolkit as well. Let's get into the footage and let's start with this thing. I have some shots here that I took on my Sony FX3. Shout out to the FX3, a great camera. And I'm gonna take you guys through the color grading process. This is gonna be my hero frame, and when I color grade, I only use 5 nodes. Some people do a bunch of parallel nodes, some people tell you to do this and that. I'm gonna keep it very simple. I only use 5. It's really 4, but I always put 5. So to add a parallel node, I'm gonna Option S on my Mac. I'll show you how to do it in Windows, but for Mac, Option S. I add my 5 nodes. Now, the first secret sauce that I use is from a guy named Joel Fulmilaro. It's Phantom LUTs. I use Phantom LUTs all the time. I use the Rec 709 one. So if you want to check it out, just Google Phantom LUTs. It's going to change your life. Secret sauce number 1. So I'm going to go to my LUTs and I'm going to add my Phantom LUT. Basically what this Phantom LUT does is it takes you from your log image to a Rec 709 image. And a lot of people might say it's good right where it's at. I look at my scopes and I tell you differently because the scopes at the bottom of the screen, I don't like how the scopes are looking. So let's go to my next node. I use the next node for my exposure, any exposure changes. So I'm gonna come in here. I see it's a little hot and a little high. So I'm gonna bring down my highlights, take my gain down to about there, looking way better. Then I'm gonna come down to my shadows or my lift as it says, and I'm gonna bring that down. Now we're getting there, And then my gamma, I might bring that up a little bit and take down my highlights, but getting your exposure is all about pushing and pulling and getting it to a proper spot. If you look at my scopes, my highlights are down and my shadows are crushed. I think it's at a good spot. I might bump it up just a little bit. Then in the next one, I handle my colors here. So I don't normally add saturation like regular people do. I add saturation in another form. So I might take down the saturation and I'm gonna go to my RGB mixer and I'm gonna take every mixer to 2. So the red output, I'm gonna take it to 2. The green output, I'm gonna take that to 2. And then the blue output, as you guess, I'm gonna take it to 2. Boom. We take it to 2. Nice, clean, saturated image. I'm not gonna mess with the colors a lot. I'm gonna leave it right there and we're gonna leave it right where it's at. Now, I'm gonna go into Dehancer and show you the magic of the Dehancer plugin. You're gonna go to your effects panel and you're gonna open up, bing, Dehancer Pro. I dropped that on the 5th node, so I'm gonna take my Dehancer Pro and drop it on the 5th node. Now don't get alarmed, it's gonna get uglier before it gets better, but this is where you gotta know what you're doing in Dehancer Pro. So we're gonna start at the top. You should see the top of this after you drop it on. I'm gonna go to my film profile first and I'm gonna change that to Kodak Ektar 25 EXP 1996. That was a good year. I'm gonna put that on. I like the way it looks, but there's more that you could do. You come down here, and before I even start this, I'm gonna take off the film grain because I'm not the biggest fan of film grain. You use film grain when needed, but for this instance, I'm taking off the film grain. Bam, film grain is off. We come right back up now to our print section. In your print section, you're gonna put on a profile. You could have from these 3 profiles, but obviously I'm gonna give you the answers immediately. I'm gonna put on my glossy paper. All you gotta remember is glossy paper. Bam, that brings us to a nice image, but there's so much more that we could do with it. So I'm gonna go and mess around my black point. I'm gonna bring my blacks down so I could crush my blacks just to add in some more. And then I'm gonna take my white point up and I'm gonna bring that up a little bit just to open up my image a little bit more. And if I was to play with this, I'll come back down to the print side and add in the color density, just make my colors look a little bit more rich. And I would probably bring down my exposure a little bit, and bam, I think we could park it here. Let's take a look at the image and we full screen it. Bam, that's what we have. So we went from this to this. And I think this is a pretty solid image, if you ask me. If you want to see the difference between what Dehancer does, we'll before and after it. So this is without Dehancer, this is with Dehancer. This is without Dehancer, this is with Dehancer. Dehancer just makes your life a little bit easier and could help you bring in your looks a little bit better. Let's go to another timeline, and I'm gonna try this on a vertical clip. Still same shot with Ryan. So I'm gonna go to the color page and I'm gonna go to my hero shot, which is about here. I like this one, we're gonna leave it right there. I'm gonna Option S and add 4 more nodes from this one. And if you were asking, I use the first node for noise reduction, but I don't have to put any noise reduction on these things. So let's get back into it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 5 nodes in total. First, what I always say, I'm gonna come and put on my LUT. This is my Phantom LUT, neutral for the A7S3, FX3. Phantom LUTs are great. I can't spew enough about it, but this is a Dehancer tutorial. Bam, we go in there, you put your LUT on, let's kiss our LUTs goodbye. Now, as I said before, we look at our scopes. We're gonna fix up our exposure. So I'm gonna come into the shadows, that's your lift, and take it all the way down. Then I'm gonna come to my highlights and bring that down because my highlights is way too hot. I might bring up my gamma, my midtones a little bit, and then I'm gonna take it back down, bring the highlights back down, and we're gonna leave it about here. This looks good. Gonna play with my colors now. Take my saturation down, take that to 30. Then we're gonna come into our RGB mixer and add more saturation. So we go to our red, take that to 2. We go to our green, we take that to 2. We go to our blue and we take that to 2. We got a very rich saturated image. A lot of people will park it right there. I might go and play with my exposure just a little bit more, bring that down, probably bring this down a little bit and bring that down just to kind of get it right there to a good spot. Let's full screen it. This is what we got. We went from this to this. That's just with the Phantom LUT. You can look into my highlights. My highlights are kind of blown out. Please forgive me, but the highlights weren't really my priority that day. Now let's go into Dehancer because this is our real secret sauce. We're gonna scroll this over, go into Dehancer, and remember what I said, it gets uglier before it gets better because you have to know what you're doing in these programs. You don't have to be a scientist, but you have to take a little bit of time. So I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna change my film profile. We're gonna change this to Ecto 25. I'm gonna just run down to the film and grain just to take that off, but we come back up. And then after we do our film profile, we're gonna come down to our print profile. We love that glossy paper. You're gonna remember it every time you hear glossy paper. Bam, we put the glossy paper on. We at a good spot. We probably don't even need to do anything else, but knowing Tawasi, I'm gonna do some more stuff. So we're gonna take our blacks down. We're gonna bring up our white point. Boom, bring that up, open up that image. And then we're gonna come down, add a little bit more color density, add just a little bit more of the contrast, probably bring up the exposure just a little bit. And I think we are good there. So let's full screen it and see what we have. We have this, so we went from, this is the raw, straight out of camera, and this is our final. And then let me show you what's the difference without our Dehancer plugin. This is without Dehancer, this is with Dehancer. Some people may like it, some may not, but I am in love with this. I'm in love with the look that it gives you. I'm in love with just the richness and the colors that it gives you. We're gonna play it again. At the end of the day, I think Dehancer is a great tool that every content creator should have in their arsenal if you want to get something closer looking to film. A lot of these digital cameras, they have this real intense digital look. And when you partner Phantom LUTs with Dehancer, it's like the tag team champions. You know, I just want to give a big thank you to the people at Dehancer for giving me this and letting me try it out for a while, because now I'm like a spoiled child and now I can't shoot without putting Dehancer on my footage and using the Dehancer plugin to make my footage look how I want it to look. I got a special code if you're interested in trying out Dehancer or interested in getting it. I got a code down in the description. Everybody, it was nice, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Peace.